Acid base. So the body has a very narrow margin with which it can modify its pH and still remain healthy. So acid-base balance is the precise balance between the production and the loss of hydrogen ions in the body. The body generates acid during normal metabolism, which tends to reduce the body's pH. The pH of body fluids is altered by the addition or the deletion of acids or bases. Acids and bases may be strong or weak. We've said previously that strong acids and strong bases dissociate completely in solution, whereas weak acids or weak bases don't dissociate completely, and some of the molecules remain intact. They liberate fewer of the hydrogen ions, and this has lesser of an effect on pH. So here is the table that's taken from your textbook about some terms that you need to have some understanding about what they actually mean. So I'll let you have a read through that in your book, but suffice to say you need to know what the definition of them mean. So what is a buffer? What is an acid? What does pH mean? So carbonic acid, the word acid at the end tells you that it is a weak acid. It's found in the extracellular fluid at normal pH and when equilibrium exists. You can see here that carbonic acid is 2 hydrogen ions with carbon and oxygen ions and the addition of a hydrogen ion, and it forms bicarb. The importance of pH control. pH of body fluids depends upon dissolved acids and bases and salts. The pH of extracellular fluid is narrowly limited, just like blood is, to between 7.35 and 7.45. People, when they're ill, when they have dis-ease or when they have pathology, all means the same thing when they're ill, they can become acidotic and have a condition called acidosis. This is a physiological state resulting from abnormally low blood plasma pH, and that means that their blood plasma has become acidic and is less than 7.35. Another condition can occur when the person is ill and they can become alkalotic, and they can suffer from alkalosis, and this is where the pH is abnormally high, and the person has a pH of greater than 7.45. Acidosis and alkalosis can affect all body systems, particularly the nervous system and the cardiovascular system. Both are extremely dangerous. But acidosis is more common because with normal cellular activity, as we mentioned in the slide before, the body tends to generate acids. So if it's unable to remove those acids, then acidity will increase and the pH will drop. There are types of acids in the body. There are fixed acids, organic acids, and volatile acids. So let's have a look at examples of those and where they're found. So fixed acids are acids that don't leave solution. Once produced, they remain in body fluids until they're eliminated by the kidneys. An example of these are sulfuric acid and phosphoric acid, and they're important fixed acids in the body, and they're generated during catabolism, during the breakdown of amino acids, phospholipids, and nucleic acids. The other is organic acids, and this is produced by aerobic metabolism. So as they're metabolized rapidly, they do not accumulate in the body, and if they're produced by anaerobic metabolism, such as lactic acid, then they burn up rapidly. An example of a volatile acid is carbonic acid that can leave solution and enter the atmosphere. So this occurs at the lungs. So carbonic acid breaks down into carbon dioxide and water, and carbon dioxide diffuses into the alveoli. Very important because that's the way that a lot of the carbon dioxide is transported around in the body, and when it reaches the alveoli, which we're going to look at next in the respiratory system, it's liberated and we breathe it out. Carbon dioxide in solution in the peripheral tissues interacts with water to form carbonic acid, and carbonic acid dissociates to release hydrogen ions and bicarb ions. Carbonic anhydrase is an enzyme because it ends in ASE, so that's a hint. Most of the ASE words are enzymes that catalyze and the dissociation of carbonic acid, and it's found in cytoplasm of red blood cells, in the liver and kidney cells, and in the parietal cells of the stomach. Remember, the parietal cells of the stomach are the cells that make hydrochloric acid, and it's also found in other cells. Most carbon dioxide in solution converts to carbonic acid, and most carbonic acid dissociates. Now, when you see the P and the small CO2, that is actually what is written as the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So the sentence reads, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is most important factor in affecting the pH in body tissues. So the partial pressure of carbon dioxide and pH are inversely related. So as one rises, the other falls. So when carbon dioxide levels rise, hydrogen ion and bicarbonate ions are released, and as a result the pH goes down and becomes more acidic. At the alveoli level in the lungs, which we're going to talk about in the next lecture, carbon dioxide diffuses into the atmosphere. Hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions in the alveolar capillaries drop, and blood pH rises and becomes more alkaline. So here we have that represented in a diagram. So it's on a fulcrum, because when one goes up, the other one goes down. So you can see homeostasis is in the middle. So when it's balanced, we have homeostasis. When it's imbalanced, then the body has to correct that imbalance. So when carbon dioxide levels rise, so you can see that the fulcrum on the seesaw is rising, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide has risen, more carbonic acid forms with the addition of hydrogen ions, and bicarbonate ions are released and the pH goes down. Here at the other side of the equation, if the partial pressure of carbon dioxide falls, then the reaction runs in reverse, and carbonic acid dissociates into carbon dioxide and water, which removes excess hydrogen ions from solution, and the result is an increase in the pH. And the increase in the pH means that it's returning more to body homeostasis of 7.35 to 7.45 of pH. To control the acid-base balance, the body needs to balance the gains and losses of hydrogen ions and gain the losses and gains of bicarbonate ions. So hydrogen ions are gained from the digestive tract and through cellular metabolic activities, and they are lost from the body at the kidney and in urine and in the lungs. And they must be neutralized to avoid tissue damaging. So acids produced in normal metabolic activity are temporarily neutralized by buffers in body fluids. So buffers are dissolved compounds that help stabilize pH by providing or removing hydrogen ions. They are weak acids which can donate a hydrogen ion, or they are weak bases which can absorb a hydrogen ion. So the buffer system consists of a combination of weak acids and an anion released by its dissociation. The anions function as weak bases. So in solution, molecules of weak acids exist in equilibrium with its dissociated products. There are three major buffer systems. You don't need to know them, a lot about them in this particular topic, but you need to know that they exist, and the purpose of them is to maintain blood pH between 7.35 and 7.45. So there are three major buffers within the body. One is the protein buffer, which helps regulate pH in the extracellular fluid and the intracellular fluid environments, and it interacts extensively with other buffer systems. The second buffer system is the carbonic acid bicarb buffer system. That's very important in the extracellular fluid environment. The third is the phosphate buffer system, and this buffers the pH of the intracellular environment and in urine. So here's a diagram taken from your books, and you can see here the three buffer systems and how they're working, how one is more important. So the phosphate buffers work mainly in the intracellular environment, and the carbonic bicarb buffer works mainly in the extracellular environment, and the protein buffers work in both areas. So the protein buffer system depends upon amino acids, and it responds to pH changes by accepting or releasing hydrogen ions. If the pH rises, so it becomes more alkaline, the carboxyl group of amino acids dissociates, breaks up, acting as a weak acid and releasing hydrogen ions. And the carboxyl group becomes a carboxylate ion. So this is in as a consequence of the pH rising. At normal pH, between 7.35 and 7.45, the carboxyl group of most of the amino acids has already either given up their hydrogen ion. So if the pH drops, the carboxylate ion and the amino group work as weak acid bases, and they accept hydrogen ions, and then they form a carboxyl group and an amino ion. The carboxyl and the amino groups in the peptide bonds cannot function as buffers, so they need other buffers, other proteins that will help with the buffering capabilities. So we get other buffers from plasma proteins, proteins in the interstitial fluid, and proteins in the intercellular fluids. Here you can just see the protein buffer. So we're looking at the amino acids, and that's the protein. And if the pH rises, we move to the right. In an alkaline medium, it releases a hydrogen ion. It acts as an acid. If on the other hand, the pH falls and it becomes more acid, in an acidic environment, the amino acid acts as a base and it absorbs hydrogen ion. Very clever. Hemoglobin buffer system. Carbon dioxide diffuses across the red blood cell membrane. No transport is required, and as carbonic acid it dissociates, forming bicarb ions which diffuse into plasma in exchange for chloride ions. This is called the chloride shift. We'll look at this more in the next two lectures about the respiratory system. Hydrogen ions are buffered by hemoglobin molecules. So that's the last slide for this bit about the acids and bases. So it's important that you grasp this because it will help you with this week's lab report.